Question I get constantly from folks is they have a bush like this, it sends up this vigorous new cane, and they want to know, is that a new cane or is that a sucker? Today we're going to learn how to tell the difference. A little bit of background before we get started. Roses in the world are generally produced in two different ways. They're either grafted or they're produced on their own roots. You will see on roots in the United States, from nursery to nursery, mostly boutique nurseries. That's about where you'll see them. Most of the world is grafted roses. So one quick thing, if you have an own root rose and you know it's an own root rose, you cannot get a sucker. Doesn't exist, okay? So we're going to deal with the grafted roses. This is a grafted rose. This is the rose I paid for. This is the rootstock. This is different from this rose up here. That's the first thing I want you to think about, okay? In America, the rootstock is generally Dr. Yui. It's a hybrid. It's difficult to tell Dr. Yui canes from the actual rose canes itself. Canada uses multiflora. Most of Europe uses a rose called laxa. But this is the fail-safe method to tell if what you have is a sucker or the rose that you paid for. I'm going to let this be a sample cane, all right? Now, this is what's called a bud union right there. That's important to keep that in mind. This is where a piece of the rose that I paid for, this one here, was budded or grafted, the two terms are interchangeable, onto the rootstock, and it began to grow. So this is the rose I paid for. So bud union. If you buried your bud union, which you should have when you planted it, go ahead and dig down and expose it, because that's what it's going to tell you. So this is a cane, all right? If it's coming from the bud union, that's the rose I paid for. If it's coming above the bud union, that's the rose I paid for. If it's coming like from below the bud union here and doing this, which I've seen them do, that's the rose I paid for. So this is good, this is good. Now, if it's coming here below the bud union, that's a sucker. That's coming from the rootstock. Even if it's coming from the soil and coming up that way, that's a sucker. That's your very simple measurement right there. Anything from the bud union or above is the rose you paid for. Anything below the bud union is a sucker. You want to snap it off, cut it off, get it close to the shank. That's the most important thing. So regardless of foliage, regardless of how many leaves it has, your fail-safe method to take a look and see if it's a sucker or the rose you paid for, expose the bud union, see where that cane is coming from. Below the bud union, it's a sucker. From or above the bud union, it's the rose you paid for. And it's really just that simple, folks.